Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first of the Institute of Supply Chain Management's 101 series on understanding what supply chain management is all about and where you can make a career in supply chain management. Couple of quick announcements. I will be making this announcement repeatedly over the course of the talk because people are still joining us. You have on your right hand side a panel which has given you an option called questions. In case you have any question, I request you to please type in your question. I will receive the question and then we will be able to answer it. Either during, if it is something that is relevant immediately, I will answer it then and there. Otherwise, I will take it up towards the end of the session. My name is Girish, and I am a director at the Institute of Supply Chain Management. I look after the training and education divisions of the institute. To give you a brief of what the Institute of Supply Chain Management is about, we are an institute which offers education, certification, we offer master classes, we offer in-company training, research, consulting. We mentor supply chain personnel in advancements in their career. We have a knowledge portal called the SCM Pro Knowledge. You can actually go in and see the articles which are there. It is called scmknowledge.in. So please look up SCM Pro Knowledge, which is a portal which is a collection of articles and opinions of various leaders of the Indian supply chain industry. And we also conduct multiple events in the domain of supply chain management, from webinars to face-to-face events to roundtables to half-day seminars. We have the entire spectrum of events which we do. The Institute of Supply Chain Management has an advisory council which consists of Dr. John Gatorna, who is the executive chairman of Gatorna Alignment, Dr. Rakesh Singh, who is the chairman of the Institute of Supply Chain Management, Dr. Mahendra Singh, who was formerly the executive director at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. They have a supply chain lab. So he was the director of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology's supply chain lab. We have Kalpesh Pathak, who is the vice president purchase at Fiat Chrysler in India, and Dr. Rakesh Sinha, who is the CEO of Reflexive Supply Chain Solutions Private Limited, and he just retired from Godrej Consumer Products Private Limited as the COO, VP and head of IT and supply chain management. We have a huge list of faculty who are associated with us. We have Dr. Rakesh Singh, you have me, I'm Girish. We have Dr. Suhas Rane, Dr. Upadhyay, Dr. Rajiv Sathe, Shashank Raudev, Siddiqui. So we have a series of academicians and practitioners as our faculty who will be teaching our classes. I told you that we do multiple things. We have a program, an 11-month program called Executive Program in Supply Chain Management. This is a weekend course. 9 months roughly would be what the classroom sessions are. And then we have 2 months of capstone, which we will do. There are totally around 12 modules which we will give you in this, which gives you the complete overview of someone who wants to get into supply chain management. So this is the comprehensive look at supply chain management. It takes 11 months. We are offering this as a virtual classroom program, which will begin on the 19th of July. You can look it up in our website at ISCM India. We will also keep sending you brochures about when the start date of this. This is a virtual classroom program on Sundays where we offer this program. We also offer short-term certifications, which will typically take around a month for you to complete. You have the certified, we have 2 programs for senior management, certified supply chain leader, which is essentially for leadership program in supply chain. And we have a program which we have titled Resolve, Resilience, Return, Reimagine. This is a dynamic program for understanding supply chains as we emerge out of this lockdown. So as the lockdown, as we emerge out of it, situations emerge from it, this curriculum will keep undergoing a change. And then we have a program on integrated business planning called the Certified Integrated Business Planning Professional. These are for the senior management. For all professionals, we offer a certified supply chain manager, which is again a 3-month, which will take you a month to complete, and certified demand planning and forecasting professional, which should take around the same time, around 5 subjects each. The important dates for you: R4 start date is 4th July, last date of admission is 3rd July. EPSCM start date is 19th July, last date for admission is 15th July. Supply chain management start date is 10th July, last date of admission is 8th July. So if anyone of you are interested, you could write to us and we would engage with you. We also have created a demand planning academy, which is India's first academy focused on demand planning and forecasting. We offer the CDPFP program, the Certified Demand Planning and Forecasting Professional, through this academy. We have around 26 people who have been certified by us in the last 1 year, which includes 4 to 5 people from the Middle East. We also offer training for, if anyone of you in your corporate would like to engage us for training, yes, we do offer training in corporates. We can do it specifically for you. We can also tailor this program specifically for the corporate so that it is only for that particular corporate. It can't be used anywhere else. How do we differ from others? We use a lot of case studies in our pedagogy. We drive home the supply chain frameworks through case studies rather than theoretical talk. Then what we do is that we take these theoretical frameworks and give you additional material which will help you become focused on it. We create interactive classrooms where you can bring in your real life problems and we can have those problem solving sessions within the classrooms. We use extensive amount of project work because unless you do something, you don't learn. So this project is one area where you will actually do something and come back with your learnings. All this will be taught by an expert set of faculty. I showed you the list of faculty that we have, both industry and academic expertise. This is a set of our clients with whom we have done our training. Almost the who is who of Indian industry is available there. We hope to add a lot more in this year coming forward. It is now time for us to shift gear and get into the program of the day, which is understanding supply chain management. We need to understand what supply chain management is, and therefore what we did is a lot of people came to us saying that they want to know, how do we run a supply, how do we know we can have a good career in supply chain management, what is supply chain management, necessarily primarily because supply chain management is relatively a new field in the world. It came up some 40 years back in the US. We have been much later in introducing this concept of supply chain management. Earlier it was known as transportation management, it was known as logistics management, but even in India it's been hardly a decade since we have had supply chain as a course, and very few colleges have actually integrated supply chain management into their curriculum, even at the postgraduate level. So a lot of people came to us and said, can you tell us what is supply chain management? And this is what we are offering you in this particular session. So we are offering you an overview of what supply chain management is. You will also get to understand what are the issues in terms of career that you can have. So if you have any questions going forward, we request you to please type in those questions that I have pointed out to you, and we could have a interactive session going forward. As I said, my name is Girish. I'm a director in the Institute of Supply Chain Management. Yeah, let's start. A lot of people have heard of supply chain management. A lot of people understand parts of supply chain management. When you look at one of the ways in which supply chain management is described is, it is everything that starts from the raw material, getting the goods right up to the consumer, right? Everything. So it is sourcing the raw material, it comes to the factory, it gets produced, and it gets to the consumer. The entire chain is a part of supply chain management. Finance is outside, marketing and sales is outside, but they have a huge impact on what is happening in the supply chain management. We will see it when we come to a second or third part of the supply chain management. So this is the entirety of the supply chain management. So what does it consist of? It consists of one, strategy, planning, enterprise applications like your enterprise resource planning solutions, managing the assets of your organization, be it a truck, be it a plant, you have to manage these assets. That becomes a part of it. Procurement or buying becomes a part of it. Life cycle management becomes a, what is life cycle management? You will realize that if you, the best example is a mobile phone. What is the life cycle of 6 months? In 6 months, your product you launched today would go out of the market. So the product life cycle, which is from start to finish, is 6 months for a mobile phone. For some other products, there is no life cycle. For example, if you look at salt, Tata Salt, what is the life cycle for Tata Salt? As long as we consume salt, Tata Salt will sell. There is no change in the salt which can happen. So product life cycle is essentially something that tells you when a product will go out of fashion. In the automobile industry, you can see it quite well. You have seen every year new versions of the car being launched and the older versions sometimes getting discontinued. For example, the first Maruti car, the Maruti 800, the Maruti Esteem, all of them have gone out. They have died. So that becomes, how do I manage that product life cycle from start to finish? That is a part of supply chain management. And what was originally in India thought of as supply chain management, which is nothing else but logistics, is also a part of supply chain management. Logistics is two parts. One is the warehousing part of it, and the second is the transportation part of it. We will come into each of these in detail in the subsequent slides. Here is what it consists of. So when I talk about supply chain management, there is something called as inventory management. We will come to inventory management very soon. There is information technology, IT, or software and hardware that you will talk about, forms a part of supply chain management, because today we are all moving to a digital age of supply chain management. Revenue management. How do I maximize the revenue that I get? As a company, you produce a certain fixed amount of products. For example, if I were to talk to you, probably Mahindras would be manufacturing around 30,000 vehicles, but the market in India for vehicles would be 3 lakhs. So what is Mahindra have to do? It has to sell its product in those markets where its revenues can be the highest, right? So they have to focus on markets and then capture those markets. We have procurement, both local and global. Today, procurement is in a problem because of COVID. A lot of Chinese imports are now affected, and the world is now looking at multiple sources from which you can procure. There is a concept of order management, which is once the order is received by you, how do you manage the life cycle of the order? If the customer places an order, what are the steps with which he will place the order? After that, what happens in your company? Somebody will check it, somebody will approve it, somebody will then pass it on to the execution team, then it will come to the, if it is readily available, it will come to the supply chain team. The supply chain management will then say, okay, this customer is in Mumbai, so I will sell him from my warehouse near Mumbai. So I will do that. So that becomes a part of your order management. There is logistics, which means whatever is produced in the company has to come to the warehouse, and from the warehouse it has to go to the consumer. That is one part of logistics. The other part of logistics is whatever raw material you need needs to come to you. Then there is warehousing and distribution. Essentially, a warehousing is a place where you store excess material so that you can distribute. For example, a company which is, let's say, Hindustan Lever has its plants across the country, and probably it's manufacturing Lux in one of its companies. It has to distribute it across the world, across the country. What does it do? It hires warehouses across the country and stores Lux in that warehouse. So let's say it has stored Lux in Bhiwandi, in a warehouse in Bhiwandi. So any requirement for Lux in Bombay will be serviced from Bhiwandi. So warehouse becomes a point where Hindustan Lever will use to store their products close to the market. And then today we are talking about something called as lean supply chain management, which is nothing else but becoming a lot more efficient. We will see this as we go into the subsequent slides. Now, what was the history of supply chain management? If you look at this slide, it tells you that in 1960, supply chain management was fragmented. We had a lot of departments. We had demand forecasting, purchasing, planning, production, manufacturing, warehouse, material, packing, inventory, distribution, order processing, transportation. You have so many fragmented divisions within an organization. In the 1980s, we started consolidating them. So we clubbed demand forecasting, purchasing, requirement, production, and manufacturing inventory into materials management. Then we kept warehousing, material, and packaging separate. And the rest of it, which is inventory, distribution planning, order processing, transportation, customer service, became physical distribution. So we started consolidating them into groups. And then what did we do? In the 90s, we integrated all of them into logistics. And we called it as a logistics as a function. But then what we did, we realized that we need information technology, we needed marketing, because marketing inputs are necessary for you to understand what you need to make, and you need to also plan for the whole process. We then clubbed everything together and created this in the 2000 called supply chain management. So you can actually see supply chain as a science started out somewhere in the 2000. Before it, it was a series of independent departments. We have now clubbed all of them into supply chain management. So for those of you who are looking at a career in supply chain management, you know where all you can now fit in. You can move from forecasting to customer service. The entire gamut of departments comprise what is called as supply chain management, and this is what you need to learn. Supply chain management is not just moving material from point A to point B. It includes understanding what we need to produce, buying raw materials for it, making that product, then moving it into the godowns, and from the warehouses send it back to the consumer. So the entire thing is a part of supply chain management, and that has been the evolution of our supply chain management. So what is the basic process in a supply chain management? You have a raw material, right, from which you will probably make some components. For example, if I was to take iron as a raw material for a car industry, you need steel. Steel forms a raw material, but you can't use a steel sheet. It becomes a component called either a chassis or a door or a frame in the component side of it. Then it comes to the manufacturer, probably a Tata Motors or a Maruti Suzuki, who will include this component in the product they are making and send it to a dealer. And the consumer will go to the dealer and pick up the product. So this entire chain is called your supply chain. Now, this is given in a single line, but actually you'll have how many for example, a car manufacturer has upwards of 30,000 components going into the product. So you have 30,000 suppliers who will be giving components. These 30,000 would probably have another 30,000 people giving them raw material. So you can now imagine how, as you go back, this tree expands. The downstream side of it, which is the retailer and the consumer, the manufacturer will have multiple. How many stores do we have? For example, if you were to take Lux as a product, how many Kirana stores are there? We have lakhs of Kirana stores. All of them become your retailer, from which the consumer goes and picks up. So it is not a single line, but it is a web. So sometimes people today call it also a supply chain web, not a chain. And therefore, we need to look at, where do I, as a consumer, what is your choice? What do I need to buy? Whom do I need to buy? And for the manufacturer, I have to ensure that whenever you come, I have to keep it there. Otherwise, you will buy something else. For example, you come to buy a piece of a soap. If Lux is not available, you will not say, okay, let me go to the next shop and see if there is Lux. You pick up whatever is available. So making product available at a time when the consumer comes becomes the goal of supply chain management. So normally we talk about it as making the right product available at the right time, at the right place, at the right price for the consumer to buy it. That is what is the job of a supply chain. What all does it represent? So making a right product at the right time, at the right place, at the right price. So it includes movement of goods, because the product has to come to the consumer where he can pick it up. It includes information flow, because the manufacturer should know how much of Lux should I stock at a particular shop. So that information has to travel. And then there is a sale process which will happen, where you will buy the product. So what is it that we do in supply chain management? Let us look at it from a very simple example. We will again stick with our example of a soap. There is in any area, for example, if we take India, there is a particular demand for soap, an annual demand of soap. Let us say in India, for example, in a year, we sell some 10 lakh tons of soap, right? There is a demand for this soap. There is a supply also available for this soap. What supply chain does is, it designs it in such a way that the supply is adequate to meet the demand. If there is more demand than what the supply is giving, what will happen to you? If the demand is higher than supply, what will happen is, you go to the store, you go and say, I want to buy Lux. Lux is not available. You will buy some other product and go away, Synthol and go. What has happened to the sale of Lux? Hindustan Lever has lost a sale. And suppose it happens 3-4 times. Whenever you go to the shop, you're not getting Lux. What will you decide? Hey, this product is not available anymore. Let me switch. So Hindustan Lever has lost you as a customer forever. What Hindustan Lever has to do is, it has to estimate what is the actual demand for their product across all these retail stores and ensure that it is supplied so that there is no mismatch. Can be either at the level which is at the shop level, or the macro level which is at the country level. So the 10 lakh tons of soap is required. I am manufacturing 10 lakh tons. One supply demand match happens. There is a store in Malad which sells Lux, which I need to get there. They need 3,000 cakes of soap a month. I need to meet those 3,000 cakes, become a micro part of it. Both these things are the supply chain's domain, and they have to do it in a way in which the profits of the company become high. They have to do it at a very low cost. They cannot incur very high cost. For example, Hindustan Lever can't say, oh, in Malad there is a problem, there is a shop which doesn't have Lux, so let me airlift some soap to malad. It becomes too expensive and they lose on their profits. Why is it so difficult to match supply and demand? Because the demand is never certain. Today, if you are looking at it, all companies are troubled because they can't understand what the consumer wants. Earlier, people used to buy based on their brand. I will go to the shop and buy brand, or I will buy a particular brand of rice, or I will buy a particular brand of oil. Today, what happens because of coronavirus and the lockdown, you go and pick up whatever is available. So your entire buying behavior has changed. The demand has changed. So the firms are finding it difficult to understand what the demand is. You as a consumer also, we are constantly changing. As we get a job, as we get progress in life, our aspirations will increase. Probably we will start with our unbranded shirt, and by the time we reach middle management, we will want an arrow shirt. Our customer expectation is also changing. Product life cycles are decreasing. A mobile phone lasts for 3 months. Today, a toothpaste, which interestingly is not something which expires, also has a year kind of shelf life. And what has also happened is, if you look at this whole process, from the raw material right down to the consumer, how many people are involved? As I told you, for our automobile manufacturer, if you've got 30,000 components and each of them has got one supplier each, we are talking a hugely fragmented supply chain, and each of them will do its own. For example, raw material supplier 1 will use his transporter 1 to give it to a component maker 1. Raw material supplier 2 will use transporter 2 to give to supplier 2, component maker 1. So you see, people, a lot of individuals who will come in and operate in a small part of the supply chain, creating fragmentation and what in supply chain is called as lack of visibility. People don't know who is doing what in this whole supply chain, right? And sometimes within supply chain, we would have some conflicting objectives also. The problem is, a lot of us believe, oh, it is his problem, not my problem, without realizing that if supply chain is not fixed, if everyone doesn't work together, it's like you sitting in a boat with a hole on one side, and the other side they are saying, oh, it is not my problem, the hole is on that side. What are the 5 phases of supply chain? Strategy, planning, sourcing, manufacturing, distribution. We will see this now. Right? The entire goal of the supply chain is to minimize the cost while keeping the service level reasonable. For example, if you're buying a Rolls-Royce and you're buying a Maruti, your expectations of service are different. If it is a Maruti, if there's a problem and it takes a day to attend, you're okay. If it's a Rolls-Royce and it takes a day to attend, you are unhappy. So based on the cost that you're paying, for that cost, what is reasonable is what we are looking at. And if we can do that, you maintain customer satisfaction. Last time in one of the slides I mentioned consumer satisfaction is a part of supply chain. The first time the consumer needs a product is through a supply chain. If that is a bad experience, then however good the product be, you have already started with a poor experience. So customer satisfaction also becomes a huge win for supply chain. But it is, you must remember, supply chain is not just a reduction in cost. It is maintaining reasonable service level so that customer satisfaction of quality, on-time delivery, all these can be met. It does not mean I should do the cheapest. I should do what will ensure the best customer satisfaction, on-time delivery, quality of services. That is what is the goal of the supply chain. Coming to inventory. One of the goals of supply chain management is also inventory. Now in inventory, we have 3 types of inventory. One is the raw material that you buy and keep. It is like the stuff that we store at home for cooking. They become the raw material. Then there is a work in process. As the car, for example, if it is a car manufacturer, he'll take up the raw materials are the engine blocks, the sheets, the nuts, the bolts, which are the raw material. They come to the assembly line. It takes 2 days for the car to be made. There is a work in process of 2 days. Once the car is finished, it goes to a finished goods. So you have raw material, raw work in process, finished goods. Now, raw material or inventory is one of the biggest corporate assets that you will have. A lot of money is tied up in inventory. It is estimated that almost 25% of the gross national product of a country is in inventory. Reduction of inventory means you need less money. What is inventory meaning? I have purchased goods, I have kept it in stock. Anything which is sitting on my warehouse is not money. I need to sell it. The moment I sell it, it becomes cash for me. Therefore, if I reduce inventory, the amount of money stuck reduces, and therefore it becomes necessary for me to manage inventory well. If I don't have inventory, what would happen? Suddenly there will be a more request. I will not have it. I will not be able to meet a sudden surge in demand. For example, during COVID, a lot of masks went out of the shops. Toilet paper disappeared from shops. Why? Because people had not expected this surge in demand, and there were not enough inventory to meet that. Had there been more inventory, it would have helped. Some countries like Dubai have been managing on a very high, they have at least 3 months of inventory. Therefore, the lockdown did not affect them as much as it did, for example, the US, where they thought, I will reduce my inventory. So inventory is a hedge against uncertain demand, a hedge against uncertain supply. It can also reduce my ordering cost. For example, if you want to go and buy a cigarette every time you rush down to the shop and buy one, the time, money, effort spent on going to the shop and buying that one cigarette versus buying a pack, it's something like that. As a goal, supply chain will look at how to make the right inventory so that I don't lose out on customers. That is the core part of inventory management, right? I have a purchasing department, I have a sales department, raw material, finished goods, and the production, right? Then we come to a next issue called as demand planning. Now, this is a core part. This is where everything begins. Demand planning is understanding in the next 1 month or next 2 months or the next 1 year, what will I manage and sell? So when Hindustan Lever starts, it will say, in the year 2000, how much of Lux will I sell? How much of other Excel will I sell? How much of Excel Matic will I sell? So they'll start planning. Detergent, how much will I sell? Soaps, how much will I sell? Toothpaste, how much will I sell? So they create that plan. It starts with that. That is the plan for the year. Then they break it up into a quarter, then they break it up into a month, then they break it up into a week. So you have, depending on the cycle that the company is following, Hindustan Lever follows a 10-day cycle. Some companies follow a 1-week cycle for planning. So it can be, what is it that I will produce in the next 10 days? What is it that I will produce in the next 1 week? This is a planning process which happens. And what are the 3 things that are involved in this? Understanding what is needed, forecasting how much of that need will I be able to meet, and then balance the demand with the supply. Because then once I am clear that there is going to be a requirement for 100 tons from me, then I will go and say, to manufacture 100 tons, how much of raw material will I need? I will plan for all the raw material. I will look at my plant and say, how much of capacity do I have? So all that starts with this understanding of what the demand is. So this becomes a core part, understanding demand, forecasting the demand. So demand sensing, demand forecasting, and then managing the demand. How do we prepare and act on the demand when it materializes? So first is, what should we do to shape and create demand? Second, what should we expect demand to be, which is your forecasting? And then how do we prepare for and act on demand when it materializes? This is the core part of demand planning, which also is a function within the larger supply chain domain. In some companies, demand planning is a part of marketing. In most companies, it is a part of the supply chain function. Though in demand planning and forecasting, marketing is the one who will start the process by giving you the inputs, right? Its primary function is to look at what is the future. Therefore, we will know what we can produce, how much to produce, where to produce, and where to send it to. Therefore, I understood what was needed. Then I do want to also plan. Once I do this demand, I also need to understand where is this demand coming from, what is the distribution I need. Do I need to send more to Mumbai, or do I need to send more to Pune, or do I need to send more to Ahmedabad? That's a part of my looking at the distribution. If I am going to do that, how am I going to do this? Am I going to create warehouses in all these areas, or will I create one large warehouse and distribute from there? That planning happens. So distribution network is nothing else but something which says, how do I move the product from my factory to the point where the consumer can pick it up? That becomes my distribution management. The function of the distribution is, are we meeting all the customer needs, and what is the cost of meeting this consumer need? Is it very high? If it is very high, then I lose. If it is very low, money as a manufacturer. So distribution is my supply chain. When I talk distribution, I am only planning there. How will I do it? Now is the actual movement of product. So somebody has to bring a truck into my factory, load it, send it to the warehouse for location. So this practice, which is organizing a cost-effective flow of raw material, which includes inventory, finished goods, from the point of origin to the consumption, from my factory to the Kirana store, is my logistics. Includes two things: transportation and warehousing. Transportation is movement either by trucks, by rail, by road, by sea, by air. There are multiple modes by which this transportation can happen. Most goods in India are transported by road, a small part through rail. Shipping within the country, we don't use much of shipping, nor do we use much of air, because it becomes very expensive. Shipping and air are more towards the export-import scenario. Though we are now trying to create inland waterways by which we can do transportation. For example, we have the Ganges, along the river Ganga, we have a transportation network which is now being rolled out. And there are multiple players in this segment. There are the truck owners who will say that, okay, I have one truck, I can give it to you on hire. So if you want, you call me, I will come and take your goods from from X to Y place. And we have, on the other side of it, we have large companies like a Mahindra Logistics or a DHL or a Federal Express, which come and say, don't worry, you tell us what is your distribution network, what is the amount that you want to distribute. Managing that entire thing is us. We will do the entire planning for how to move it, which trucks to engage, where to place the inventory, all that we will do. That becomes your 4PL. PL is party logistics. So one PL is first party logistics, which is the trucker himself running the organization, running the entire distribution business. A 4PL is fourth party logistics, which is someone who will take over the entire responsibility of the distribution and the logistics function. It also includes reverse logistics, which is nothing else but bringing rejects back. For example, in e-commerce, you would know you order a lot of times and then send the goods back. So Amazon has to come and pick it up and take it back to the seller. That becomes your reverse logistics. Multimodal logistics is, I told you, there is air, there is sea, there is road, there is rail. For example, you could use Delhi to Bombay, you send it by rail, and in Mumbai, you use road to send it to the shop. So that becomes a multimodal logistics. Right. So logistics is movement of material and goods, both raw material and finished goods. Supply chain management is including supplier, producer, and consumer, the entire chain. Managing that entire chain becomes supply chain management. Logistics is a small component of supply chain management. rail, truck, air, pipe. Okay, pipeline is only in cases of oil. We are building a couple of pipelines. We are building one from so Middle East to India. We are building one from to the Burma to India. Those couple of pipelines we are building so that we can bring in the oil into gas. For example, is distributed in Mumbai through pipelines. Then there is buying or sourcing. What is sourcing? I planned I have to make X amount of products for which I need raw material. That raw material has to be purchased from the best possible source, given what is the quality I need, what is the timelines I need, and what is the response times I need in getting the product. So I'll have to choose who is my vendor from whom I can place an order. I will place the order. I will expect him to give delivery. So therefore, sourcing is a very complex thing. It is not just going and buying things like we do. It includes understanding if the vendor is good enough for me. So I need to do a vendor evaluation. Then I need to onboard him. I take his balance sheet, financial statements, etc. I evaluate him. Then say, okay, he's good for me. I will evaluate. Then once he comes in, every consignment that he brings in, I have to test for quality. So there's a huge amount of cost involved in sourcing, and that also is a part of the supply chain management, because when we decide what we have to produce, we have to procure it in time so that my production is not affected. My production cannot take a shutdown because raw material is not available. That function is that of sourcing. Today it is a huge pressure because your supply chains, your suppliers from China all suddenly disappeared. The world is in lockdown. There was no transportation. Your factories had to close. Technology becomes a very core element of supply chain management, primarily because in traditional format, what we used to see in technology is that we used to talk about three distinctive elements. We used to talk about supplier relationship management, which is nothing else but managing the relationship with the supplier. I have a supplier A, I will onboard him, I will look at him, what is the kind of orders I have placed on him, what is the kind of developmental efforts I have on him, what is kind of quality, what are his people doing. So I will start looking at and build those supplier relationships if they are crucial to me. Then you have the ISCM is not Institute of Supply Chain Management, it is internal supply chain management. The raw material has come into the gate at the factory. From there, it has to go to the factory warehouse. From the factory warehouse, it has to come to an implant warehouse. From the implant warehouse, it has to go to the assembly line. And from the assembly line, it has to come to the finished section. The finished goods section will move it to the finished good warehouse. So this becomes my internal supply chain management. And then there's a customer relationship management, which is managing the relationship with the customer. Remember, the first time a customer will actually test your product is through your supply chain, not through your marketing. It is a supply chain which is the proof of the quality of the product and the delivery. Now what has happened is, if we talk technology, we are now talking new kinds of technology are coming into the supply chain, making our jobs much easier. For example, there was a time when we used to send a consignment from Mumbai to Delhi and we would not know where the consignment is. Then everyone is calling up the driver to say, kahan tak paunche, kahan paunche, kahan paunche. Why are we so anxious? Because we had ordered for some product, the product is on the way, we do not know where it is and we do not know when it will come to our premises. So we have a lot of anxiety to get even when you order it on Amazon, number of times that you go and see where exactly is it is very high. Why do you do that? You know anyway it will come, but we need to do it because we are anxious about knowing when exactly will it come. This function is called visibility. Where exactly is a product in my supply chain is called visibility. And normally everyone in the supply chain should have a visibility, because if I am a manufacturer and if my supplier knows that my demand is increasing, he can also increase his production. If he doesn't know, if he waits till I place a large order on him, suddenly he finds himself does not have the capability to service my order. So that visibility becomes very important, and today technology is helping us do that. I will take this up in the last slide, which is what is the future of supply chain as a whole. Now, when we talk of supply chain, you must remember now that almost all functions of a corporate, leaving aside 2 or 3, are a part of supply chain management. What should we do tomorrow? Now, one of the biggest problems that we will have as supply chain management is cost savings. Just the transportation cost in the country is around 13% of GDP. In the US, it is 9% of GDP. If we can bring down that cost from 13% to even 10% of GDP, which is saving of 3% on 3 trillion. What is 3 trillion is? 3,000 billion. 3 trillions, 3%. How big a sum is that? So it's a huge opportunity for us to become efficient and reduce our cost. The second future in supply chain, earlier if I had a supplier in China, I was very happy. I used to get the product at low cost. I would bring them in and I will manufacture. But today, how many of you would really like to look at China as your sole base of supplies? You will need to create alternate supplies so that if China goes down, somebody else will supply me so that my manufacturing doesn't get affected completely. It will get affected, but to a lesser degree. For example, when the floods happened in Thailand, Toyota's production across the world got hit because Toyota said these components will be only made in China. It was a single source. The single source got knocked out for 45 days. Toyota got a major hit. The future of supply chain management is also getting into understanding what is the risk in my supply chain. To know how will I have placed an order, will the order come in time? Are there going to be will something like a COVID happen? Before COVID, we had a SARS. Before that, we had an H1N1. Before that, we had some bird flu. So we keep having these kind of disruptions. And then there are strikes, there are floods, there are earthquakes. There are too many things happening. And we will need to understand how can I ensure that in spite of all of this, can I make my supply chain strong? Can I make it resilient enough so that even if something happens, I bounce back quickly? Resilience doesn't mean that I will not bend. Resilience means I might take a hit, my production might go down, but I will quickly bounce back to where I was and go on the growth path. And we also become a core part of telling the business what is it that people want. Who is the people who are actually in touch with the consumer? It is not the marketing, it is the supply chain, because who does the delivery? The supply chain. So a real understanding of what the consumer wants is with the supply chain also, not just the marketing. So we become a part of that team. So we become a part of the top decision-making team within a corporate. To do this, we are going to see a widespread adoption of technology. Today we are talking multiple levels of technology. Today we are talking for example, today I normally, how do I plan? Any one of you who has ever, if you have worked in a corporate, you'll know, and if you are in sales, you'll know how will you give your target? Last year's target plus 10%. Now, if every company were to grow at last year target plus 10%, India should be growing at what rate then? 10% minimum? If we go by that, right? The problem is, if we have to, and that was because we had past data. Today, if we look at it, that past data is no more valid because the consumer has changed his expectation. Consumer constantly changes expectations. Now there's a drastic change. So people are suddenly realizing, oh, people are not buying all these quantities in which they wanted it. So people started buying less products. Now to meet these, we need to bring in technology. For example, we will need to bring in something known as Internet of Things, which is coming in, which will be small sensors which are fitted into every product and in every truck, so that you will know where exactly is the truck, when is it coming, when is it due, is there any problem. For example, if you're looking at an aircraft, almost all the components of an aircraft has got a IoT enabled device which keeps sending help messages to a ground support. The moment there is a problem, from the ground there we can even understand that there is a problem in the aircraft and ask the aircraft to land. So technology is coming in larger way. We are now looking at technology. Blockchain is available, for example, which can help us track and do the entire transaction online through digital medium. Digitalization is becoming a huge effort in supply chain management. A lot of companies have embarked on journeys of digitalization. So what we're going to see in the future is supply chain becoming a core part of your strategic function, because you might have the best product. You might have a product which is unbeatable. You might have a product which can be at the lowest price. But if it doesn't reach the store in time when the consumer comes in, it won't sell. I might have the worst product, but my product is sitting there on the shelf. So when the consumer comes, he looks at my product, he doesn't see your product, he buys my product. What happened to your quality? What happened to your cost leadership? Everything goes for a toss. Therefore, supply chain today is being realized. Going forward, companies are going to compete on supply chains, not just product. Sorry. All of us. So what is the difference between Synthol and Lux? Not much. Which sells? What is on the store. Therefore, companies will start competing on supply chain management, and which is the reason why today companies are also investing in supply chain management. They're investing in technology, they're investing in people, they're looking for trained people, right? So that is the end of the session. And now I would like to take up any questions which you have. Okay. Hope you will be sharing. Okay, there's a question here. What are the methods you would like to recommend on how to collaborate with supplier in a current scenario? See, at the time when you are in a crisis is not the point, not the time to think about collaboration. Collaboration has to be thought of much earlier, because collaboration requires that you have a deep understanding and relationship with your suppliers. Today, what you can only do is try to constantly stay in touch with the supplier, understand what he wants, ensure that he is not facing any cash flow problems, because today cash flow is a major issue with your supplier, and that will be what you will have to today ensure that. And how do I recommend this today? Because physical movement is restricted, the only way you can do it is through your digital media. So you now need to, the biggest thing that you need to ensure is understand is keep talking to him frequently, keep telling him what your pain is, keep understanding from his what his pain is, and then keep, as far as possible, try to mitigate his pain points. Is blockchain used in supply chain in India? Muhammad Adil. No, Adil, blockchain is not used in supply chains across the world today. It's still an experimental technology. There have been some small experiments done by DHL with Maersk and all that, but still it is to see rollout. There are multiple issues in it. One of them is also legal. In India, a lot of things that happen doesn't have a legal backing, so we'll have to wait till the legal backing comes in. What is the meaning of capstone project? This is Sunil Pandey has asked, what is capstone project? Capstone project is nothing else but the final project that you will submit at the end of your course. Will we get a certificate after this entire course? This is just an introductory part. We are not exam. Certification is given by us when we examine your learning. This is more an introductory course. We are familiarizing you with the entire spectrum of what is supply chain management. Mohammed Talib has asked, is spare part management considered part of supply chain or not? Also, are services? Yes, spare parts management is a part of supply chain management. In fact, there is a discipline called aftermarket supply chain. Aftermarket supply chain is nothing else but supply chain of spare parts. Supply chain of spare parts is different from the supply chain of the normal supply chain, because in normal supply chain you move a full truckload to a destination. In a spare parts supply chain, you'll have to move one component probably to a destination. The quantity is very low, therefore the dynamics are very different. Services also are a part of supply chain. For example, if you're giving a warranty, it's a part of supply chain. You say that you're going to give 4 free services. So if your technician comes to do the service and go back, that cost is a part of their supply chain cost. Gopi Krishnan Ravanadasan has asked, please talk about technology automation since Gopi, there is a huge amount of technology and automation that is available across supply chain. For example, if I talk about logistics or the warehouse, there are things like drones which are used to take inventory within the warehouse. There are technologies like automatic storage and retrieval, which will go and keep the product in a shelf and bring it back when you need it. There are robotics within the warehouse which will help manage the warehouse. Then there are the softer side of it, which is like warehouse management solutions, warehouse control solutions, which will manage and control the equipments within the warehouse. So if you talk about automation, every aspect of the supply chain can have some amount of automation coming in. Your documentation can be digitalized, therefore the entire documentation can go through as a digitalized process. For example, thanks to automation, this is an example which Coca-Cola keeps quoting, Hindustan Coca-Cola. It used to take them 8 hours for a truck to come in to their warehouse, to their yard, fill it in the warehouse and go out. It used to take 8 hours. Thanks to technology, they brought it down to half an hour. So you can see how technology can actually change, or automation can change what is happening. So there are two parts of it. One is mechanization and then there is automation. Mechanization is, instead of you carrying goods, you're introducing a conveyor belt which will take the goods from point A to point B in the warehouse. That is mechanization. Automation is when you put some intelligence to that and the conveyor belt will now know that this package has to go to this location. That becomes your automation. So these are the two things that will happen. Supply chain doesn't report to a department. Today, supply chain is now becoming an independent entity. Yes, it needs to get its budgets cleared from finance. It needs to get its people recruited through HR. It needs to have a very close relationship with production because they have to ensure raw material availability and evacuation of produced goods. Therefore, it doesn't actually report. It is now more seen at a board level. It directly reports to the CEO. Sanjay Sahu has asked a question, how do I cater to the sudden increase in demand? Two ways, Sanjay. One is when you have the flexibility to suddenly increase your production. If you can do that, like a lot of companies switched over into manufacturing hand sanitizers, suddenly increasing the supply of hand sanitizers. The second option is to have enough of it in store, like what Dubai did. They had 3 months of stock, so there was no stock out. So either you have inventory piled up or you are able to quickly manufacture and service your customer. These are the two ways in which you can do it. What makes a next generation supply chain? Koshi. Koshi has asked this question. Koshi, a next generation supply chain is nothing else but something which is technology driven across the entire chain, collaborates across the entire chain, ensures a free and fair flow of information across the chain, and you at the core of it are sitting there to orchestrate the chain. Okay, it is not going to be fragmented like it is today. For example, let's take that you are a manufacturer and you have given your and that Mahindra Logistics is doing your transportation. Mahindra Logistics does not have its own trucks. It gets trucks from the market. Now you will need to know in a next generation supply chain, this entire thing will be transparent. You will know exactly which truck is coming, whose truck is coming, where is it at any point in time. Your movement will be visible to your suppliers to the extent that they need to know. If you need to know, it will come to you. Right? So the next generation supply chain will be highly automated, even in a country like India, because we need transparency, we need efficiency, we need to reduce the time to market. For these things, we will, for example, again, thanks to Amazon, you now are now looking at same-day delivery. If you have to have a same-day delivery, your warehouse has to be automated. It cannot be a mechanical, manual warehouse where people go running around and picking up products. So we will see a more automated, visible, well-integrated supply network, which becomes lean, which has no excess fat. How to benchmark a supply chain process with other industries? There are two things here. This question was asked by Porus Narnavare. If I'm sorry if I have not pronounced your name right. Porus, the problem is this, that there are best practices in supply chain across industries, but each industry and each organization has got a Unilever is doing this in 10 days, so let me also do it in 10 days. What you have to evaluate is, what is it that are my capabilities, and to the best of my capabilities, can I do it? What you need to look at from other industries, what are the best practices that they are doing? How are they achieving efficiencies? If Hindustan Coca-Cola has achieved efficiency in its warehouse, it has used automation very well. Hindustan Coca-Cola could afford it. Now, if you are looking at, let's say, a smaller manufacturer, they may not be able to afford that kind of automation. So you can't say, I will benchmark it to Hindustan Coca-Cola. Therefore, you should say, what are the best practices which I have? How can I create my own best practices for my company? That should be your approach, not a cut, copy, paste. Most times what we try to do is that we say that, okay, let's get people from here, there. They all come in, and then we will do the cut, copy, paste, and then we will fail. Is Prem Bhaskar asked, is ISCM a private institute? Yes, it is a private institute, does not have any affiliation with any university or government body. Kubalai Kundu asked, does analytics, IoT, and blockchain, etc., part of being the executive SCM program? Yes, we have a subject, a module there which talks about the new technologies which are emerging in. But remember, we are not teaching you the technology. We are teaching you its application. How will you use IoT? How will you use blockchain? How will you do analytics? And analytics, we have got a separate paper. Technology, we have got a separate paper. It is more focused on how you will use it rather than teach you the technology behind IoT or the technology behind blockchain. You don't need to know that as supply chain people. You need to know what is it, how can I integrate it into my process. That we teach. Chandrakant Sahu has asked, can we call sales teams or the demand team as the supply chain? No, the sales team or the marketing is outside of supply chain. They give us inputs into what the supply chain should be. So for the demand planning, etc., they get inputs from the marketing team. They are not a part of the supply chain, but the demand planning team can become a part of your supply chain. It is how the organization, there are organizations where the demand planning is sitting with the marketing. There are organizations where demand planning is sitting with supply chain. More people are today tending towards the supply chain side of it because that is where the action is. And all of us know what a marketing forecast is in reality. Koshi Samuel, what about next generation digital supply chain? Koshi, if you could elaborate about this. The next generation supply chain is going to be digital, which means it is going to use technology in its operations, in its entire operations across the entire partners within the supply chain. Therefore, the next generation is going to be a digital supply chain. Mithil Vyas, yes, we will share the PPT with you. There is a question from, again, Koshi. Is all this applied today in supply chain anywhere in India? The application of the Internet of Things, the use of advanced robotics, application of advanced analytics. Yes, Koshi. People have used this. People have used this, but in bits and pieces. A lot of consumer goods industries, for example, Hindustan Lever or a Procter & Gamble or a Marico, for example, is using a lot of big data analytics in their understanding demand and sensing demand. A lot of warehouses today are using ASRS. At least there are, I know of 3 instances where we are using automated store and retrieve systems within the country. Robots like the Amazon robotics, we have not seen it. We have not seen robotics like that, but I hear that some warehouses are quickly going into, we will reach into a situation, because thanks to COVID today, if I can tell you that your product has not been touched by anyone, you are more comfortable than when I say some 20 people have been handling this product. You don't know among the 20 who is positive. Therefore, it will come up. I'm not sure when it will happen, but parts of it. Internet of Things is being used in a big way. For example, Rivigo in its entire fleet of trucks is using Internet of Things based devices in a large way. They even monitor your face. We hope to see more of it coming quickly. Tariqul Islam, how do I deal with force majeure clause already in place, in already placed order in terms of buyer benefit? How to manage supplier bargaining power in this? See, if it's a fair contract and if it is an act of God, both of us have to, both the buyer and the seller have to have the maturity to understand that this is not a fault of the buyer or the seller. It is something which has happened. For example, we went into a sudden lockdown worldwide. No goods were allowed to move. Borders were sealed. Even if I have the product, I cannot send it to you. So it is not a question of my ability or intention, but it's a question of the scenario outside which has caused it. What can happen then in this case is, you are in constant touch with your supplier. You keep talking to him. You keep ensuring that his pain is always solved. For example, there are a lot of companies in India who did that. What they did was that they got all the permissions required for the supplier to move products, because they were a larger company. They had a larger cloud. They managed to get those permissions and they gave it to their suppliers and then ensured that the supplier can dispatch the product. Therefore, these are some of the things that you will need to do. You will know this only if you talk to him and understand his pain. If his pain is not getting a government sanction, probably you could intervene and get it. But if it is across borders, if it is from China, he needs the sanction, you will not be able to do much. He'll have to do things. Or probably if you have someone in China who can get it done. So these are the things that you will do. If you do that, then your supplies are assured. In this situation, rather than bargain, I would urge you to collaborate and cooperate, because what happens is that in difficult times, if you stay together, the supplier and the buyer, both of them will realize that we have gone through this and we have come out of it, and therefore let this marriage be stronger. That is what we should do, rather than use it as a time to leverage and saying that, okay, difficult times, I am in requirement, therefore I'm going to pay you less, and supplier will say, no, I am the only one supplying, let me charge more. This will kind of break down the trust between people. Use this as a situation to build your relationship at that point in time. I hope that's okay. Mohammad Adil Dalvi, what are the key skills supply chain professionals must have looking forward? Okay, Mohammed, that's a very interesting question, because going forward, the old skill sets are going to be less of use and more new skill set would be coming in. In fact, we have been talking about this for quite some time. The future skill sets would be in the area of data analytics, would be in terms of big data, it would be in terms of understanding technology, it is in managing technology, it is going to be on orchestrating your supply chain, it's going to be a more planning oriented. you're going to see a lot more digitalization and technology orientation coming in. So the future requirements are going to be in those lines. It's going to be a lot more in terms of risk management and risk and resilience, because so far in India, supply chain risk management was a hot topic. But thanks to this, going forward, you will need to understand from every source of yours what is the likelihood of a failure. If that failure happens, what will happen to me? What is the cost to my company? How will I deal with this? So risk management also will become one of the key elements of your supply chain management going forward. I hope that answers your question. Anything different we can see with supply chain management in the oil and gas related business? Koshi, supply chains are supply chains. The process remains the same. What changes is probably the quantity being moved and how it is being moved. Oil and gas could either have a pipeline or a ship movement, but the principles of supply chain management will remain the same. What will change is the difficulty in getting it from your source to your point where it can be loaded onto a large vessel, and similarly offloading it at the receiving side and then pushing it through. For example, if you're using a very large crude carrier, it has to berth offshore and then transfer to a smaller vessel, which will bring it into the inshore, into a port, and then will get in a storage there, and from there piped. You have complexities which come from it, and complexities of the hazardous nature of the material. Therefore, safety, environment, health, and safety become a very huge part of your oil and gas pipeline, which is less to do with probably, let's say, soap supply chain. In a soap supply chain, environmental damage is limited. Health and safety aspects are not very high. Even if the truck moves along in a road, there is not much that will happen. But if you're looking at oil and gas, all these issues become very critical, and for them, employee health, the environment, health, and safety becomes crucial functions. Can supply chain functions operate like Uber and Ola? Now, you're essentially talking of on-demand requirement of supply chains. If you look at it, very little of our corporate function is going to be on demand. You know what you're manufacturing today, therefore you know where you have to send it. Therefore, there's an element of planning which will come. When you plan it well, your costs become lower. If you're in an unplanned scenario, then you'll have to go into an Ola Uber kind of model. The question then is, Ola Uber model come with a surge pricing. Are you willing to look at surge pricing for your supply chain? So Koshi, therefore, as supply chain managers, they don't want any cost increase. They want to keep costs low. Therefore, a pure Ola model or a pure Ola Uber model might not be the right one. It might be more of the planned one always acts better, but with a lot more transparency. If you're talking about the transparency, yes, we are going to have, but also remember, let's take a cement plant which has got around 350 trucks coming into its factory in a day. If the supply chain manager is going to see 350 trucks coming towards him, what kind of a screen will he need to manage that, right? Therefore, they have evolved different technologies to understand where a particular consignment is. Therefore, yes, transparency will come in if you're looking at transparency as a Ola Uber model. But if it is on demand, then we have to live with your surge pricing, which becomes a problem for supply chain management. There's a question by Koteshwaran Arjunan on supply chain transport management. See, transport management is a part of your supply chain management. Under the logistics function, if you look, there's a warehousing and there's a transport. Managing the transport, it's in multiple phases: raw material to component, component to factory to warehouse, warehouse to distributor, distributor to retailer. So there are transportation involved in multiple places, multiple types of transport is involved. Therefore, transport management is a smaller function within the larger supply chain domain. 3 months, Sanjay Sahu has said that 3 months inventory will increase huge holding costs that may impact the price increase. Yes, it definitely will. But in Dubai, where every product had to be imported, whose transit time itself was around 20-21 days, people preferred to have that as an inventory so that they don't run out of stocks. They looked at it in terms of the cost of not having the product in time. So you're absolutely right. 3 months inventory will increase holding cost, and that will impact the bottom. It will not increase the price. It will reduce your profit. The final price is not related to inventory. It will reduce your profit. Chandrakant Sahu, how consumer is shown in supply chain? That is a point I was raising query. Consumer is not a part of the supply chain. He is the end point of the supply chain, right? When you go and pick up a product from a shop, you are the end product. The end product is not the shop. You. If I am sending, for example, if you're ordering a TV on and at the shop, and you walk out, the shop will then send it to your house. Therefore, the end point of the supply chain is the consumer. The starting point of the supply chain is the first raw material supplier. So the starting point is raw material supplier, the end point is the consumer. That is why it is depicted as the end point, as a part of the, it's the end point, not an entity in the chain. The chain ends at the consumer. I hope it is clear. Any suggestion for current supply chain students? Yes, a couple of them. Get some clear understanding of the concepts of supply chain management. You need to focus a lot more now going forward on technology, analytics, these kind of subjects. You also need to get a clear understanding of real life business situations and how supply chains can be affected. Therefore, if you're have your reading, which is a lot more wider. Also, if you look at all the subjects that we mentioned today, you can see the spread on which supply chain is. It is preferable that you have an idea of the entire part of it, but you focus on an area where you're comfortable and then do that. Therefore, as a student of supply chain, I would say, now start adapting to the new requirement, the new normal in supply chain, which is more a digitized, automated supply chain. At the same time, understanding the fundamental concepts and focusing on an area that you want to build your career in. Ranjan Sinha had asked, how can we have details of the course? Ranjan, we will send it out to you. We will send you the course, all the course details we will send you. Can end consumer be a stakeholder of the supply chain? By Sunil Pandey. Sunil, I have already explained. He's an end point. He's not. He has an impact on the supply chain, and therefore his expectations are what drive the supply chain, and that is what is very crucial. We need to understand this very deeply. Let's take an example. You are remodeling your house. You are painting your house, and you went and ordered a TV. I told you the TV will come in 10 days. You're very happy because it will take you 9 days to paint the house. Once the painting is over, the TV will come, it will be fixed. You're very happy. Now, as a supply chain, I look at efficiency and I say, I will deliver it the next day. So you place the order, the next day the TV has come to your house when the painting is still going on. What is your experience? What is your behavior then? I did supply beforehand, but you are not happy. So I need to know what is it that you really want and meet that requirement. To that extent, you are a stakeholder because you are the one who is driving my supply chain. Your expectations are driving me to produce it. Your expectation is driving me to fulfill it at the right place, at the right time, at the right price, at the right quality. All these are things that your expectations. Therefore, you are driving my supply chain. That is something that companies should look at. I hope it's clear. Akshay Palekar, is outsourced processing a part of the supply chain? Akshay, it is a part of the supply chain. sometimes supply chain managers also have this problem of outsourcing or doing it internally. For example, when I engage a transportation agency like Mahindra Logistics, I have outsourced my entire supply chain, but I still own the supply chain. I still am responsible for the supply chain because I am responsible for my consumer. I am responsible to him. Therefore, it is my product, my supply chain. Any other question? I think we have gone through all the questions, right? Thank you very much. I hope you like the session. Please do write into us. Please do keep visiting our website. Please do keep in touch with us. We have a series more coming up we have 5 more such sessions happening. Now onwards is going to be a deep dive. All the things that I mentioned here, inventory, demand planning, sourcing, technology, all of them we are deep diving into each session. Today was setting the tone for all of them, giving you a large overview of it. I hope it was insightful. Thank you very much. And also please keep looking at what we are doing, right, so that we can stay in touch with you. Again, as I said, collaboration is something that will help us both grow. It will also help us understand what you want and help you understand what we want. Is it Sunil Pandey? Yes, Sunil, we will share the prospectus with you. Mohammed Imran, yes, the session is recorded. We will shortly inform everyone where you can get this recording. We definitely will do that. Keep checking your mails. How to use blockchain in food? There is one question by Dhanesh Fanse who asked, how do we use blockchain in food supply chain without Dhanesh, the reason you're using blockchain is to ensure that there is no duplication. Once you are on blockchain, under no circumstances will anyone be able to tamper with anything. If it is tampered, you will immediately come to know at which point who has tampered. Therefore, food supply chains, blockchain becomes very crucial. Pharmaceutical supply chain, it becomes crucial. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. It was lovely speaking to you. I did get quite a number of questions. I hope I've answered all of them. We will keep talking to you. We will keep coming back to you with such similar insight sessions. We also urge you to check us out on our courses. These are some of they are well-crafted courses which are essentially dynamic. We keep changing these courses based on how the situation evolves. We keep bringing in new subjects. We keep dropping off old subjects so that what is not relevant goes out and what is relevant stays in the courses. And they're also taught by some of the best faculty that you will have. I urge you all to look at it. I hope to see you all quite soon. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.